when I'm learning about Korea, I have to move forward because Koreans already know all of that. The room was packed. This wouldn't happen in the United States. You know, one thing that's interesting, be focused. The way I teach is just asking questions. I want my students to just hear questions. I don't have answers.
Yeah, right.
You know, the answers are not interesting. But the questions are really for me, you know? Like I start with a question, try to answer the question, and when I try to answer the question, I see more questions, and then once I have enough questions, then I give those to my students, to people.
Yeah.
And then they try to answer them. And then I learn from what their answers are.
I know what kind of class you made. You know why? I majored in sociology too, right?
Yeah.
So when I was in the university, one of my professor had a teaching style similar to Sam's. He called on students to ask questions. He didn't just teaching. We listened to the students' thought and had discussions.
Yeah. It's so interesting that more professors don't do that. It makes teaching, it makes the classroom so interesting.
So after the class, the professor gave us report. It made us crazy every day.
Yeah.
Most of the students respect him. He is retired a decade ago and he became a pastor.
But it's interesting that he's continuing, hopefully, to ask questions of people, trying to make them better human beings by thinking about ethical issues and moral issues.
In that reason, you reminds me of him.
What was his name?
Young-Shin Park.
I would like to be remembered by my students or by anybody who watches videos, including Sabashi videos, as somebody who inspired questions, who really caused people to feel confused, have to try to answer the confusion, resolve the confusion. That's what people say. That's what my students say. When they leave my class and they say, I am more confused, what makes a good speaker? Do you see kinds of personalities?
A person who have a lot of questions for himself and they had an experience.
The difference between people who have really big extrovert personalities and people who have introvert personalities. Do you notice a difference?
It doesn't matter whether they are bold or shy. Actually, it matters. Do they have an idea, develop their life and experience?
And the experience that creates interesting questions.
I had a kid speaker, middle school student, 80 years old speaker. So we have a lot of range. They are in common. They had some idea and experience that improve their lives and our society.
It really is only at this point in my life that I have lots of questions. But when I was young, you know, when I was 30, I thought I had questions, but I really had no experience. And I didn't realize that the questions were not the big questions. They were just defining my particular path. But now, it's very different. Whoa.
This is salty. It's up to you. You can put it.
It's really nice to have many years pass, you know, to get older. I'm older than you. Wait, how old are you?
52 years old.
Okay, so I have 10 years. 10 years on you.
62?
63.
3?
I think 63.
Yeah. You forgot your...
Well, no, because here in Korea, I think, in Korean age, international age, I don't struggle anymore to really try to answer all of the questions that I have because I know that I can't answer them. Mm-hmm. So it makes much more interesting. The other night I was listening to one of the speakers and I thought, wow, you know, I used to think like that. But now I no longer think like that because I see now that my life is more confused. Sometimes people with really big personalities, I don't realize that even though they have a big personality, they're not asking a big question. And sometimes people with very small or introverted personalities, they say the most profound things, you know, they're asking the biggest questions. Hey, so when you first asked me to be a Sebashi speaker,
Oh.
what were you thinking?
My friend who works at MKYU lecture in English at your class.
Yeah.
He introduced me to you. You will be a good Sebashi speaker. And I watched your videos. They were very impressive. You remind me my Professor Pa. The big reason why I invited my show, Koreans are negative about ourselves. We often talk about negative things like high suicide rate, competitions, low happiness. We don't speak well about ourselves. But Sam, you are different. You know our strength. That doesn't mean that you don't know about weakness or problems. You are a sociologist, right? You know the issues.
I'm trained to think about problems.
But you focus more on our strengths. I like that. I think we should also focus more on what we do well. That's why I thought that your speech needed for us.
Sebashi talk was very positive. The second one was more challenging though, but still positive.
Finish your first Sebashi talk, you took the questions from audience, right? One person asked you, specific action Korea take to lead the global. So you said that, that's my second Sebashi stream. I'm gonna answer next year.
And then it was so complicated that I said, okay, I have to have Lori join with me because all of the most complicated questions, I always need her to help answer.
Actually, we didn't talk about anything about your second Sebashi talk chance, right?
Yeah.
And you looked at me. Can I?
Can I come back?
Okay. You keep your promise.
What makes Sebashi interesting for me is that I have to write the talk because it's the only time I ever give a talk in which I write it out. Challenging for me is that I have to write a script.
The way of Sebashi is kind of weird to you, right?
Yeah.
Very strange to you.
Yeah, but I like it.
And the point of audience, they don't prefer simultaneous interpretation. Simultaneous interpretation is kind of poor translation.
Yeah.
And they can hear your voice. The subtitle is much easier for them to understand the whole speech. And they can hear your voice.
Yeah, because I've been teaching for 40 years, I have a lot of experiences, just having a single piece of paper and standing in front of a group and talking. Lots of people, cameras. If you don't have that experience and you step out onto the Sebashi stage, it can be very nervous. You forget, can't think straight, and you don't say what you think you need to say. But I see people freeze sometimes, You must see that.
Yeah, speech is very hard thing. A script can reduce their burden.
No.
And another reason, the stories in advance.
Yeah. My 4 Sebashi talks, you have given me really good feedback and really helped to make the talk strong.
Most of the producers leave all the content to the speakers.
So for me, I appreciate when people give me feedback ahead of time. And I really appreciate that. They gave me very clear direction about what they wanted.
That's the right to work.
They have an idea. The worst thing is when I don't know, and then I just come in and I talk, but I never know if it was good or bad, or did you like it, did you not like it? And when I'm learning about Korea, almost every one of my talks, I have to move forward many steps because Koreans already know all of that. This happened with my very first talk on climate change. You said, listen, you don't need any of the climate change stuff. They know this already. They go start with that assumption. So that took like 6 minutes out of the talk. Okay. And I find that with the Korean audiences here.
I am so happy to hear that.
When you first invited me to do a Sebashi talk, I didn't know what Sebashi was. I got online and I looked at some talks and I could see that it was like a TED Talk, but very much for a Korean audience. And TED Talks are global. So there could be people who are not Americans, people who are talking about things in other countries. It's really a worldwide phenomenon. But Sebashi is not. Sebashi is about Korea. And I really like that. In a very complex country and many really interesting contributors. You can talk about other things, right? But primarily the talks focus on for Koreans about Koreans. Then it made doing a Sebashi talk much more challenging and much more valuable for me because I get to only think about Korea.
We focus on the Korean issues.
I think that's the value of staying with the Korean audience. You know, the Korean audience is such an educated, hungry audience. Last Friday night, the room was packed, and I thought, wow, this wouldn't happen in the United States. I mean, you know, some places it would, but I've given lectures in many countries, I mean, around the world. Sebashi is the only one where I write the script out. Again, I like that. When I step up on stage, I can act. There's no pressure. You know, I gave a talk here in Korea. The stage was really wide. Like, my notes were at the podium, which was far away, introducing me, and my mind went blank. You know, when speakers get nervous, their minds go blank. Something happens, my mind slows down, so that the clock is going very slow. So I have lots of time to think what I was going to say. And I said, okay, hang on, just relax and remember. I said, oh, this is really going to be a disaster. So as I was walking up onto the stage, I saw the first slide and I went, okay, I think I got this. And then I slowly got in the groove and I said, okay, I got it. And then I started talking. But man, I had that moment. But I never have that with Sebashi because I know that I have a script, so I just get to act. So I really like that.
If I were you, I don't like to show up on the Sebashi stage.
It's funny. I'm actually kind of shy. In a small group, I will be shy. So if I come to somebody, people will say, oh, I'm going to invite Sam Richards for dinner. And maybe there's like 8 people or 10 people, and they think, oh, he will be really interesting at dinner. And then I just eat my dinner. I just do this. Yeah. The older that I get, the more I think I really don't have anything important to say. Which is very strange because usually people who teach and I put cameras in the room and I give talks, you would think that I believe I have something important to say, but I don't. And the reason I put cameras in my classroom and I put it on YouTube is just because I'm fascinated by putting cameras in the classroom. This is really interesting. Can we do this? We start to perfect it, you know? Now we have 7 cameras and, you know, we're going to have a moving camera and then just because it's a challenge for me to do that.
So you like the production things?
I like the product, yeah. But I never watch my own videos.
Even Sebashi talk?
No, because I wanted to see your editing. And then I watched the editing and I said, okay, these guys, the editors at Sebashi are really, really good.
Thank you. That's me.
That's you, yeah. No, it's really awesome. I showed my other talks to my editor because I say, hey, listen, learn from this. I said, but this is how Koreans are doing.
After Sebashi, do you have any change?
Koreans, when I meet them, many people say, you're YouTube, and many people will say Sebashi.
You might have more calls from organization or companies.
Sebashi is something for the educated, you know. It's directed at an audience that is wanting to think about their minds and their lives.
The first Sebashi talk we recorded last week, I think that was the best one. That talk about Koreanness. That topic really needed to know.
It's a big issue.
The low birth rate.
Yeah.
In certain documentary, American female professor, when she heard of the Korean birth rate, she surprised like this. Koreans.
I think it's hard. Well, first off, you can't change it. In the government, you can offer things to young generation to have more children, but it doesn't matter. You can never offer enough. Because it's happening all over the world. It's not just Korea, so it's larger sociological factors.
But North Europe's birth rate is going up.
No, not really. It's higher in certain places, but it's really. And where it's going up, it's immigrants. So like in Italy, France, and Germany, immigrants have high birth rates. The overall birth rate can look like it's fairly stable, but hey, I have though, a Sebashi talk about Korean as part 2. And Koreans are very questioning, like thinking about putting Korea first. Yeah, that many people think that that's a bad idea. but I don't think it's a bad idea. And so I want to talk about that. That would be my 5th Sebashi talk. You know, one thing that's interesting is that when I'm speaking, everybody in the audience is listening. You really, really listen. Or, you know, they're reading the subtitles, but they're very focused. That is different. You know, every audience everywhere in the world is a little bit unique. The ability to just be focused. And I really like that. As a speaker, I really like that. I would do a Sebashi talk. Every time I came to Korea, I would do a Sebashi talk because the feeling of getting up on stage, having everybody focus on me is so valuable.
Dancing together make the audience to like that. And that dance make the audience be more energetic. In the last week, he danced together on the stage, but he was a very bad dancer.
Yeah. They just followed immediately. They watched him and they just did it. And me, I was like, yeah. No, that was really fun. By the way, this is really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
The audience in the United States, like we tend to think very highly of ourselves. Koreans are very self-critical. Oh, I made this soup. Oh, but it's not very good. But you know, it's,
Critical, yeah. 겸손.
is that what it is? But I see Korea through the lens of, you know, the rest of the world. You need to stop being so critical because there are so many really interesting things here. And you're so good at so many things. I like to point those out because I think Korea really needs that. In the US, I think Americans often need to hear more criticism. Be a little bit more thoughtful about what shortcomings are in the United States. I like being able to come here and pick out many of the positive things. I mean, there's so many things. You know, I come in the metro. The other night, I lost my phone. I was at a restaurant. Like once I realized that I didn't have my phone, I never had a moment where I thought, oh my God, I won't get my phone back. I said, oh my God, I have to go back to the restaurant. But I knew my phone would be sitting there. They would have it.
That's Korea.
In most countries, it would disappear. In most countries where I travel, it disappears. 2 Sebashi talks about climate change. And I'm basically saying to the Korean audience, listen, Korea, the country of Korea, you can fix this. Like, you really can fix this. And you can show the rest of the world how to fix this. I can't go into other countries and say that. And so, for me, it's so unique to be able to walk into this nation and tell a nation of people, you can fix this problem. Even if you don't believe you can fix it, you can. It's really, really valuable.
So self-critical.
13 years ago when you started, compared with what they want to hear now.
When I started this Sebashi talk, I thought that audience like a social movement. Nowadays, I think the audience like to hear about healthcare, the mental health care.
Yeah, that personal care. Like
Suicide rate of this country is the highest.
So Sebashi then, what you have, in a way, it's the voice of Korea because you're listening to people, Koreans, from so many different parts of life talk about so many things for 15 minutes. So it really is the voice of Korea.
Sometimes that give me a hard time, kind of great responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
Feel so burdened.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's very cool.
After my retirement, my Sebashi will be on.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Continue. Okay, well, I'll try to help with that.